Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to HuttCast. HuttCast is a pragmatic approach to several things that happen in life and happen around us. So tune in, check us out. If you like us, give us a thumbs up to HuttCast. Welcome to HuttCast. HuttCast, again, is that pragmatic view of things that we do. In the studio today, we have a gentleman, Bill Hoffman. Bill Hoffman is a singer, songwriter, philanthropist, and he's going to teach us a little bit about critical theory. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Okay, you guys stand by. We'll be here shortly. For home and workplace comfort, we here at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning have over 30 years of residential and commercial experience in replacing, repairing, and doing general maintenance on your heating and cooling equipment. Call the experts at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning. For all your indoor comfort needs, we are located in Coon Rapids and serve the entire Twin Cities area. Call one of our professional technicians today at 763-757-5040. That's Dependable Heating and Cooling. Again, 763-757-5040, Dependable Heating and Air. Welcome back to the show. Today I'd like to start out with the definition of CRT. It is an academic movement made up of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States who seek to critically examine the laws as it intersects with issues of race and challenge the mainstream liberal approaches to radical or racial justice. And that is not from me, that is from Britannica.com. Bill, what would you like to say today about CRT? You have the floor.
Well, they're discovering that they are teaching this already to our K through 12 students in many states. And a good article that I read was written by Joanne Florino called The Critical Race Training Juggernaut. And it talks about what it is, what critical race theory is, and actually how destructive it is. It really is based on Karl Marx's theory that all history is based on the history of class struggle. And what it does is it teaches students everything is related to how they are discriminated against, people of color, that is. And it tries to tell the students that white supremacy and discrimination is prevalent in all of society, in all of our institutions, such as education, religion, government. And it's basically teaching them to hate our country. And it's a sad thing because, in fact, it's a scary thing. Because what it does is it doesn't teach regular civics. It teaches action civics, which means it teaches kids to react to things like white supremacy, and they call it critical race theory or systemic racism. Well, we know in talking, Tim, you and I talked about this, that really racism is just a term that gets thrown around. It's used way too much, overused, and really it doesn't exist. It's we're all part of one race, the human race. What does exist is discrimination. And in this teaching, it likes to teach about not equality, but equity. So it's teaching the students, because you're not white, you are owed something. And you know what Martin Luther King Jr. taught was equality. He wanted to let people know that in America we have the right to have opportunity, and the same opportunity for all races. Now with critical race theory, it's saying, hey, we want equity, not equality. And equity is different than equality. In equity, it says you owe us something for how we were treated or how we perceive how we were treated. And so it really is a time bomb as far as social events go. You see all the riots and all the unrest going on with everything going on. You can see that people are more apt to get out and take action rather than talk to each other. And this is one of the big problems we have.
So would you say, or would you quantify owed versus earned? When someone says to me, they say, well, We have a right to that. We have an earn to that, and then we have a that's owed to us. Would you say that it falls in the category of somebody owes them something?
Right, exactly. And that's the difference between equality and equity. They're teaching students now with critical race theory that, hey, because of white people, supposedly you are owed something. You are owed a free education. You are owed free money from the government, and you are owed everything. And it's actually teaching people to hate our country when you get down to it, and that's very sad.
And who are they teaching this to?
Right now, they're teaching it to college students mostly, but now it's starting to get through to kindergarten through 12, K through 12, and parents are starting to take notice, and you're going to be hearing a lot about this in the future.
Well, we have had a incident on the Champlin community page. Okay, so in this Champlin community page, a certain teacher was teaching her version of the CRT method, and a lot of parents were upset. They were getting irate. They were getting phone calls. It blew up the page. We've had a lot of people jump in because of this. And this specific teacher, she's an English teacher. And you know what? I won't say no names, but if you want to go to the page and look at it, you certainly can. But I happen to believe that if your students can pick your agenda, your political agenda, you are not a teacher. You are an indoctrinator. Is this what this kind of falls under?
That's exactly right, Tim. Right now, what we have is our teachers are doing indoctrination rather than educating. They're teaching our kids what to think, not how to think. And this is a real problem. And this is where parents are starting to get upset, and they're starting to call their superintendents and their school boards. And that's what we got to do is let them know we don't want them to teach our kids what to think. We want them to teach our kids how to think.
And we all know that in a school situation, public schools require a certain number of bodies to be funded by our government. Do you feel, Bill, that this here is a situation where we should remove our children from public schools, go to private schools?
Well, that is one option. A lot of people are going to homeschooling, and that is an option. They don't really have any other options other than homeschooling or private school. And this is a problem. That's why this needs to be taken care of. And a lot of parents don't have that choice. They don't have that option. So the important thing is to get out there and let your voices be heard. Call your representatives, call your school board, and parents have to get together and stop this.
I see. Now, I'm going through your notes here, and I'm seeing that you got something about William Jacobs and law clinic professor. What is that about?
Well, William Jacobs is a clinical law professor at Cornell Law School, and he was talking about being concerned about the effects of CRT in higher education, and he was saying that there are warning signs on many campuses where the assumption of systematic racism has become commonplace. And so what's happening is you're seeing a lot more demonstrations, a lot more acting out of what they're learning about systemic discrimination or racism, as they call it. And William Jacobson was concerned about this, and he's part of the LIF, and he's...
What does LIF stand for?
It's a Legal Insurrection Foundation. It collaborates with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And they're offering a webinar entitled How Critical Race Training is Harming K through 12. So he's at the forefront of trying to fight this. And with their organization, Legal Insurrection Foundation, they're trying to get a handle on this and stop it and say, hey, you can't teach our kids that all white people are white supremacists. You can't teach our kids to hate white people, and you can't teach our kids to be apologetic for how they're born. And he's taken notice of this, and he's got an organization going to try to fight this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, this individual, is he? What state is he from?
He's from Texas.
I see.
And he's part of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and they're at the forefront of fighting this critical race theory right now. If
we wanted to reach out to him, would we just Google it, or do you have a certain area that we could get a hold of him from?
Yeah, I think you have to Google the LIF or the Texas Public Policy Foundation. They do have a website, and I'm not sure what that website is. I should have written that down in my notes, but they will be on Google if you Google them. So
okay, let's see. Moving on with this here. K through 12, we know that it's been indoctrined. We have this thought. I mean, you've been seeing this for years. When you grew up in South Minneapolis, and I know that's a big word these days. South Minneapolis is just holy cow. What have you seen back then versus now?
Well, back then we didn't have people pressing our buttons and saying, "Hey, everybody is a victim of something or other." We were all. In fact, as a white kid, I was in the minority. We had Native Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, and as a white kid, we were probably a quarter of the population. But we didn't care. We played baseball, we played sports, we rode our bikes. We didn't seem to have a problem until somebody came along and said, "Hey, you're white, so you must be prejudiced." And nowadays, they're actually teaching that with this critical race theory. They're trying to make people victims. And by doing that, they're causing a whole new set of problems. And it goes against everything that Martin Luther King Jr. taught. So it set us back a long ways. And I think we have to open our eyes and fix this thing and get people like Joanne Florentino, who wrote this article, and William Jacobson, who is that law professor that's got this LIF foundation going in Texas. We have to work with them and work with our representatives to fight this thing.
How would one work with the representatives? Let's say, for instance, you've got a lot of Democratic representative friends, and they want to. How are you going to create a bill? How are you going to pass that to where we can't have this systemic? And I'm not going to call it racism. I'm going to call it systemic prejudice.
Right, you're right. It's systemic prejudice, not racism. They like to throw that racism word around a lot. It's a good question because, as you know, in Minnesota, pretty much most of our lawmakers, our senators, are both Democratic. And I have the experience where I've written letters to Amy Klobuchar, for instance, and all you get back is a form letter.
Canned message.
Right. Canned message, form letter. So you have to just keep trying. You may have to go visit the state capitol, but keep writing all your Congress people and all your senators, and getting small groups together with parents is really important. You may have to start at your school board level and take it from there, because if you can get the school board to listen, usually the public representatives, the senators and Congress people will start listening as well. But the other thing is, a lot of it depends on how you vote, and I'm not going to tell people how to vote, but that's one part of it is that's why we vote, is to get representatives that will listen to us, and that's important.
Regardless of your political content, whether you're a Reb or a Dem, I believe that these people are in there. Even if you didn't vote Democrat or Republican, it doesn't negate the fact that these people that are now in office shouldn't listen to you. Right.
I agree. They should listen to you. They should be representing everybody, no matter what their political stripes are. And that's one of the problems. And it's one of the problems in our entire country is it's based on victimization, and it's us against them, Democrats against Republicans, whites against blacks, and we have to stop that. We have to come together, and we have to be one country. And like you're saying, you don't like to call it racism, and you're exactly right, because we are all part of the human race. And so to say that it's racism instead of prejudice is wrong. And we need to come together as part of the human race and stop building walls between the races and come together and say, hey, we're going to teach our kids to love our country, to love each other, which is exactly the opposite of what the critical race theorists are teaching our kids. And that's kind of where we have to start.
Those are some pretty deep words. And again, you've lived this, you've seen this, you have been in a housing area where, this was everyday stuff for you.
Right. We grew up in a very diverse neighborhood. And, as you know, South Minneapolis, we had just a totally diverse population down there, and it still is. The difference is back then we weren't indoctrinated to believe that we were enemies. We were, it's like the red ant, black ant theory. You put red ants and black ants into a jar and they get along just fine, but you shake that jar up and all of a sudden they think they're enemies and they start to fight. And that's kind of what's happened today. Didn't happen back then so much, but it's happening a lot today. I mean, there's always little pockets of prejudice here and there. You can't deny that. But as far as systemic, so what they like to call it, racism or prejudice, it really is being taught to the max today, to the maximum, and to our detriment, and to our kids' detriment. And so we have to stop this thing in its tracks.
Okay. Let me put a pause on you right there, Bill. I'm going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, let's have a conversation about this Texas Public Policy Foundation and white kids, and see if we can quantify some of their thinking. Okay, stand by. I'd like to talk to you today about security, home security, business security. We here at ProTech Security care about your safety. We've been keeping honest people honest, we like to say, and give dishonest people something to think about for over 20 years. Not only provide high-tech security systems for your home and business, we also provide basic network and router management LAN and Wi-Fi for our residential customers. Support audio and video monitoring systems, card access, security systems, cellular phone amplifiers, home entertainment systems, and much, much more. We have experienced technicians that will design a system that will work for you. We are located in Osseo, Minnesota, and are waiting to design a system to meet all your specifications. That's right, ProTech Security. Give us a call, 763-493-2020. We are pro at keeping honest people honest. ProTech Security, 763-493-2020. ProTech Security Systems. Welcome back to HuttCast. HuttCast again today. We have Bill Hoffman, singer, songwriter, philanthropist, giving his take on critical race theory. I'll tell you what, I've sat in this thing for a while now. I've done some editing, and wow, what an eye-opener. I can't stress enough that you new parents out there have to really pay attention to what's going on with this schooling. Either you're for it or you're against it. I mean, there's no in between. Bill, where can you go to fight this?
Well, there's a lot of needs to be met here. If you want to fight against critical race theory, there needs to be some umbrella groups of parents and kids. And I've got 3 names I can give you that you can look up on the internet, and they will point you in the right directions. Mm-hmm. The first one we talked about is William Jacobson, a clinical law professor at Cornell Law School and president of LIF. And he was part of that webinar that discussed this whole critical race theory and how to fight it. The next person is Nicole Neily, Neily. She is the president of Speech First, and they're an organization that seeks to protect the free speech rights of college campuses.
Okay.
And the last one is Thomas Lindsay. He's a senior fellow, Lindsay, Lindsay. He's a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And he's well-versed in the origins of CRT, critical race theory. So look those 3 up, and they can give you information on how to fight this and where to go and who to contact. I think it's important, too, that we mention that the Texas Public Policy Foundation made a statement that's pretty important, I think. It says, although critical race theory is not grounded in logic, which it isn't, and it's not the way most Black Americans look at the world. So as we talk about this, we're not saying that this is something that all Black people or all people of color believe in, but we're saying that it's being taught in schools, And what we need is parents and umbrella groups to get together and demand transparency of their school boards so they can know what curriculum is being taught to their children. And there's lots of ways to do that, meeting with your school board, talking to the principal. Parents have to get engaged, though, and make this happen.
And you mentioned umbrella groups. What do you mean by that?
Well, umbrella groups are groups like PTAs, just separate parental groups that get together and say, hey, we're going to fight this together. It doesn't have to be an official group, but it's got to be people that care enough to, want to make their voices heard. And sometimes that's a group of 5 or 6 parents going to the state capitol or going to your school board. It's people getting in touch with other people that are concerned. There may already be groups out there that are fighting this that actually have their own names and their own places they meet. So it's umbrella group is pretty much just a small group of people that are fighting for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot to absorb.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot. We have to demand transparency. If we don't do that, if parents don't get together and do this, there's going to be a whole new set of problems in our society, which we're already seeing part of that with every new shooting that goes on or every new racial incident that goes on. That it's we see our representatives coming down from Washington inciting violence, and that's part of the norm of this critical race theory. They're saying, hey, let's get out there and fight, and that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get out there and solve problems. Think critically and solve problems. And with critical race theory, they're saying get out there and be confrontational, and that's not what we want. That's not what gets problems solved.
They want to see everybody fight, and the rest of us want to see everybody work it out.
Right.
Well, see, the definition of politics is having two different sides, two different agreements, two different points of view to come together to make a common goal for both parties involved, right. i.e. politics. Okay, so now what do you want new parents? These new parents they're up and coming. They got kids in school. They've never lived what you have lived. What do you want to tell them in today's world of what they should be, paying attention to?
Well, first, when you sign your kids up for school, when you enlist them into a school, you need to go to that school and find out what their curriculum is. All schools are required to have their curriculums available for parents to look at. And so they can do that through the PTA. They can do that just by calling the principal or calling the school board and say, mail me your curriculum. If they have a curriculum that includes critical race theory, then it's time to get involved and say, no, either we're going to put our kids in a private school or we're going to, find some other alternative. But the main thing for new parents to understand is you have the right to see the curriculum of what your educators are teaching your kids.
Mm-hmm. And I want to reinitialize what you just said. Parents, if you do not like your school's public, private, whatever it is, curriculum, do not engage with that school. There's a lot of open enrollments around the cities. We're in the Twin Cities here, so for you people across the country, I don't know what your open enrollment is, or if you're in Switzerland or wherever you're getting this podcast. Let's not let them ruin our kids because we just don't want to get off our butt and fix this. If there's a school that fits your agenda for you as a human, and I use it loosely because, everybody has their own beliefs. And I'm kind of the guy who, if this is what you want to believe, great. If it don't, wrong podcast. Find out if they fit your agenda. If they do, move on. If they don't, okay, hold on here now. Do we want to do this? Some don't have the luxury of picking a school, and that's a thing. Well, then you're just kind of stuck with, okay, how do you fix this at your level? So again, if you don't like the curriculum, take them out of school. The county, the city, the state require a certain amount of bodies. If they are losing fellowship or readership from a school or attendance, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel it in their checkbook. And that's the only way we can fight these guys. And I don't want to say fight. That's kind of a word that, no, it's an anti-word, and I don't want to fight. I'd rather work with someone and say, look, we don't want this kind of teaching. Again, in our local school here, we have a couple of teachers that shunned my kids, and I can say this personally, because you were a white heterosexual male, and if you weren't a trans, this, of color, of whatever else, she hated you. She absolutely made it miserable on you. And I went to the school board. I jumped up and down. She was tenure. They were afraid to do something because they might impede her freedom of speech. And I thought, we ain't doing this. Luckily, it was his last year. He got out with grades, and nobody wants to stir it up for their kids because it makes it harder for them kids to have grades. But I'll tell you what, in life, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with problems than they just teach you in school. So if you follow me on that, don't accept their curriculum if it's a problem. All right, so Bill, what else can you answer?
Well, Tim, you touched on a good point. Something else I'd like to bring up is when you were talking about options for your kids. This is another important point that you touched on that I think people should think about. Is many states and municipalities right now are talking about school choice. Some states have it, some states don't. If you want to really make a difference, get in there and fight for school choice. That way you do have a choice of where to send your kids. That's a good point because, the school that your district is in may not be teaching the things you want that school to teach. So another good fight or problem to solve is school choice, and that's a good thing to get out there and be for.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a crazy world we live in. And we're punching about 10 minutes on this segment. I don't know if there's much more that we can add. Bill, I thank you for coming into the studio today. And I know you gave up your Sunday for this. It will be published later tonight after our edit mixes. And I just want people to know that you have choices in life. Now our kids have grown up and moved on several decades ago. But what I'm seeing today and what I'm seeing back then were almost the introduction of this whole thing. And I don't want it to be a thing. If you want your kids to do that, then that's great, super. What else could you offer, Bill, that would help some of these these younger adults that are having kids of that age?
Well, just like we said before, make sure that you're aware of what your school is teaching. Get the curriculum and make sure that you're aware of what they're teaching and do something about it if you don't agree with it, because the only thing that we really have is our voices and make those voices heard. I think it's really important for people to understand that this is a crossroads right now in our society, and I appreciate letting me talk about it because I think it's one of the most important things we got going right now, and we really need to be aware of what's happening with this whole critical race theory because we don't want to fight each other. We want to come together and solve problems. And by making people victims and making people dislike somebody because of the color of their skin, that's totally wrong. And we need to fix that.
I'd agree. And very well said, by the way. Okay, we're going to put a fork in this tonight. Again, I want to thank you, Bill, for giving up your Sunday to come out in here and talk on HuttCast. For all you people across the globe, we're well past 40,000 viewers, and I want to thank you because you are the people that we do this for. And it comes from the heart, and I want everyone out there to know that. Bill, again, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
For HuttCast, stand by. We'll wrap this up with a commercial, and then we'll exit out. Again, everybody, thank you very much. That about sums it up for HuttCast. We had a great show today, and I hope that some of you people out there get your ears on and pay attention to what your kids' education is all about. Again, for HuttCast, thank you again. Tune in. Next week, we're probably going to talk about that gun show loop that everyone's talking about. I happen to have some intel direct from a gun show. Thanks again for HuttCast. Have an outstanding rest of your week.